That's my buddy Aaron, and in this episode, he'll be sharing some insight like this.
One of the things that I really wish I knew when I was first getting started is that nobody knows what the heck they're doing.
In this episode, I'm happy to be joined by my good friend Aaron Spicer. We've been traveling together over the past several years, tackling a client's photo and video needs. And in this video, he'll talk about some of the gear he uses to get the job done, along with some of the considerations he makes when traveling. He'll talk not only about some of the challenges that we face together on these jobs, but also separately as creatives in an ever-evolving world. So let's get into it. This client has locations scattered all throughout the East Coast, and every quarter we travel to different locations to produce a large library of content for them. And the assets we create get used in all kinds of marketing materials, everything from print advertising to online ads and social media content. Since all of these jobs require us to travel, we each have to consider what equipment we'll need to bring. And as an FX6 owner, this is just one area in which the FX30 really shines. Traveling with gear and equipment these days can be a tricky balance. But having trekked across more than half a dozen states together, we've gotten lots of practice in getting our essential travel kit dialed. The FX30 allows me to travel light, and on most of these jobs, with only two lenses. The Sigma 18-50 2.8, which I'll be talking more about in an upcoming video, so stay tuned for that. But in my opinion, it's the best lens you can get for the FX30. It's affordable, small and lightweight, and whether you're on a budget or not, the images it produces is on par with lenses that cost several times its current $539 price tag. And since we're also shooting interiors on these jobs, a fast wide-angle prime is essential. And for that, I rely on the Sony 11mm 1.8. If you're unfamiliar with it, it's a fantastic lens. It's affordable, and its fast wide-open aperture of f1.8 keeps me from ever having to use the higher base ISO on the FX30. With its wide field of view, the equivalent of a 16.5mm on full frame, it gives minimal distortion, and it allows me to get some great wide-angle shots that our client loves. I occasionally travel with the Sigma 18-35, and although that lens was released way back in 2013, I love that my FX30 has given it a new life in the modern era. It'd be great to see this lens get an update and be released in a smaller, lighter design, if that's even possible, but until then, it'll remain one of my most used lenses on the FX30. It's tack-sharp wide open, and the autofocus works extremely well. Occasionally on these jobs, I'll need to film interviews or client testimonials. But for the most part, audio capture isn't required, which means I can travel without a tripod, lights, or light stands. The main objective is to capture B-roll that includes both exteriors and interiors. Sometimes we'll shoot with staff, and other times it's just empty spaces and rooms in a brand new facility. Aaron and I both got our start in a time that was long before YouTube and social media. And I'd imagine the current landscape of today's younger photographers and video producers would find it impossible to build a profitable business without either of those platforms. So there's something to be said about anyone who's been able to sustain a long and successful career, especially one in the creative industry. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Aaron.
Hi guys, my name is Aaron Spicer and I am a still photographer based out of Roanoke, Virginia. I've been doing this thing for going on 20 years this December, And yeah, just happy to be here. Robert and I linked up during the pandemic through some online programs that we were both part of, and we hit it off. And a little while later, he reached out with an opportunity to do some work together, and we've been doing that ever since. A couple times a year, we get to travel up and down the East Coast, and we have a blast. As I head into year 20 of my photography career, I'm continuing to evaluate the creative landscape and my place in it. The things that are at the top of my mind right now are the relevancy of social media and what AI has in store for us, as well as kind of examining my own personal practice and, what I want to do creatively and what gear I need to do that. But the thing that ties all three of those together for me is and always has been the human element. And I think that's more important now than ever. To me, it feels like we're coming out of this era of social media where everything is so well manicured and curated and fake. And we're entering into an era of even faker AI. And I think in the end, people are going to really crave that human element. And so I think it's more important now than ever to show the human side to your practice and really kind of emphasize the beauty of those human flaws. One of my biggest considerations heading into these gigs is the travel itself. I'm flying out of Roanoke, Virginia, which is a smaller airport, and a lot of these planes that I'm on are little puddle jumpers with limited overhead space. And I know because of the nature of these gigs that I can't afford any travel delays. So right off the bat, I know that I'm going to be carrying all of my camera gear on my person, as well as the clothing that I need for the shoot. And so I kind of have to be really thoughtful and mindful about what I'm packing, and that each piece of equipment has a purpose, which is tough for me because I am kind of a take two of everything type of guy in the event of emergencies. I think one of the reasons that Robert and I get along together so well is that we both consider ourselves to be kind of the MacGyver type. We like to pack lightly, work efficiently, and think quickly on our feet. And those are really the considerations that we need for these gigs, especially considering the fact that most of the assignments have us flying in the night before and starting our day at dawn and working until about 1 or 2 before we fly out that same night of the shoot. So yeah, just really about maximizing our time and efficiency while on set. When I'm packing, I'm considering in equal measure the functionality of the equipment as well as the size and the weight. And so the first two things that go in my bag are the Sony A7R5 and the Sony A7 IV. I'm typically relying more on the A7 IV because I find it to be a little quicker, a little more nimble, a little more flexible in high ISO situations. And so I do kind of keep the A7R5 around as a backup, and for some of these situations that require a few more megapixels and a little bit better dynamic range, mostly like the exteriors and things like that. When it comes to lenses, I am definitely considering weight and size here in choosing the 1.8 lenses over the 1.4 cousins. And so in my bag is going to be the 20 millimeter, 35 millimeter, and the 85 millimeter. If I have room for it, sometimes I'll take the 24 to 70 zoom lens. But typically those 3 prime lenses are going to cover everything that I need to cover over the course of a day. Aside from that, I'm carrying one small flash with a remote trigger and a host of batteries. And that's pretty much it for me. Staying at the top of people's mind is so important in this industry, and you really have to work at it every single day. And I think one of the avenues that people tend to ignore is the magazine work. It seems like a dinosaur. I realize I'm going to sound like an old fogey just saying that. And I know what you're thinking is that magazine work sucks, the pay sucks, the hours suck, the gigs are not sexy. But when you take a gig with a magazine, you are really getting this opportunity for free advertising. And I don't mean by name recognition. I don't mean that like getting your name printed in a magazine has any real weight anymore. But when you go to these magazine gigs, oftentimes you're going to be in front of the people who are hiring for these businesses, and you have a chance to impress those people in person, and you get face-to-face time that you normally wouldn't get, and you're not doing a cold call. You're not just sending a book to some random person without a face. I think the biggest challenge that Robert and I face on these gigs is one that many teams are familiar with these days, which is that we are just a two-man band, and we are responsible for everything from delivering the visuals to being the director to being the talent managers. We are shooting the real-life staff members and residents of these buildings that we're photographing, and so we're not bringing in models, we're not bringing in actors, no hair and makeup. So we really kind of have to be on our game and have everything locked down visually, because we're going to be spending a lot of our energy coaching these people and putting them into situations where we can get some really unique and thoughtful content. One of the other challenges that we face on these shoots is that we're trying to create still images and video at the same time in the same space. I know a lot of crews are familiar with this mode these days, but it is a huge challenge. We have to be extra careful and think these things through ahead of time to really make it work. You know, some of these dynamic moving shots that we're trying to get, oftentimes in these locations, there's only one shot, there's only one angle, and we both have to be kind of in that same zone, working in tandem to both be able to deliver something to the client that is going to be usable for them. And so, we've worked out a really good system where we leapfrog each other for the static stuff. But when it comes to adding talent, we really have no other choice but to be in the same space at the same time, kind of working side by side, even shoulder to shoulder. And that takes a lot of forethought on our parts to really kind of consider where our partner is going to be. Really like 1, 2, 3 shots ahead of time, so that we don't end up in each other's frames and that we can still both deliver something usable to our clients. I used to believe that the biggest challenge we faced as photographers and creatives in general was the task of educating our clients about the value of our work. But, in the past 5 years, I've really kind of come around to believing that the task is not educating our clients. The task is educating our colleagues about the value of their work, and really engaging in the open sharing of information about our rates, about our business practices, and just kind of being a lot more open with each other in a more collaborative atmosphere, because if we lift each other up, then the clients really have to kind of fall in line. One of the things that I really wish I knew when I was first getting started is that nobody knows what the heck they're doing, and that even the seasoned veterans have a touch of the old imposter syndrome. Doesn't matter how long you've been in the career. One of the things that really gives me hope about the photography landscape right now is that people are so much more willing to be collaborative and share information and really talk about how they achieved their success, and more so how they deal with their failures.
I hope you enjoyed that segment with Aaron. He and I will be traveling together once again later this month, so keep an eye out here on the channel for future videos. Give him a follow on social and show him some love down in the comments. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.